I want to take accountability for these actions. I know this is tough for everyone, and I'm especially sorry for those impacted. These are the words of Mark Zuckerberg in the email that he sent out to all his employees in November 2022. And he had to lay off 11,000 employees. Now that one sentence encapsulates all that I know about leadership. His first sentence, I want to take accountability for my actions, for my decisions. He's establishing very clearly that he is the boss, the final authority, and as exemplified by the saying on Harry Truman's, there's a plaque on Harry Truman's desk, the buck stops here. How often do we see people with a propensity for actually making sure that they pass the blame on to somebody else? Oh, we didn't do well because the market conditions were so bad. We didn't do so well because our product was a little before time. We didn't do well because you employees were not good enough. We have so many different excuses. Even, oh, climate change. When people want to give kind of reason to do it. But Mark said, no, I want to take accountability for my decisions. And explains how those decisions came about. During the pandemic, everybody rushed online, even Toastmasters. We were all online because we had no alternative. In fact, as they said, with all this gloom and doom, we didn't know what to do until along came Zoom. Zoom saved our lives. Zoom showed us our clubs across continents. Mark Zuckerberg and company thought, as we transition from Facebook to Meta, this is the world of the future. Online commerce is the way it's going. End of online commerce? End of pandemic? People were rushing around shopping with a vengeance, charging around shops, malls, everywhere. And they were like, we want the physical experience. We want to get out of our houses. We want to do everything. Online commerce figures went exactly back to pre-pandemic levels, and Facebook, or Meta as it was now called, was faced with this huge infrastructure development, real estate. People. Now, what about this mail from Mark Zuckerberg is how he clearly explained what was the rationale and what was the strategy going forward. He said, we're cutting down our people, we're cutting down infrastructure, we're cutting down this, that, and the other, and we are going forward in this particular way. He spelled out this strategy. Now remember, one of the things a leader also has to do is to take care of his people. In that mail, it was very clearly detailed. Every single member of the Meta company received a mail spelling out their place in the company, what was going to be done to them, their teams, and they were able to go on from there. So therefore, that ensured lowering the degree of uncertainty that surrounded everyone, because as you have seen, Elon Musk firing more than 80% of his people and half of Twitter being resigned. He's like, some of you can't work, some of you are useless. The uncertainty is, will I get a pink envelope or will I get a mail saying that I am going to be next? And that uncertainty can affect morale for everybody. That is a killer for productivity, because I don't know if I am performing well. I don't know if I'm well enough for the circumstances. And how do I give up my best if I don't know what is coming next? So as a leader, be sure to tell your people what is happening and what is happening next. Of course, that one line, "I got it wrong," shows leaders can be vulnerable too. All of us have been subject to all those predictions. Market experts telling us exactly like this about online life, what will happen after the pandemic, what will happen here, there. And so many of them, just like our TV weathermen, get predictions wrong. But for a leader to admit that is a sign of being human. So yes, saying that you are wrong is a way of getting on with things and saying, all right, I got it wrong. Let's get on to the next step. When we are looking again at the kind of statements that he made, he was protecting the great work that they had done and what they had actually done to ensure that Facebook reached the status of Meta, and he was very confident that Meta is the company of the future. We are all creating history. He thanked people for their contributions, appreciated them. That's one more thing that leaders can do. In our own country, let me give you the example of our space research, the Indian Space Research Organization. Our former president, Dr. Abdul Kalam, was working, and he was in charge of the first flight into space. 10, 9, 8, the computer said there is a problem. 5, 4, 3, abort. The satellite went into the sea rather than up into space. You can imagine the flack that happened. At that press conference, Bakram Sarab flack and said, yes, we did try, but we failed this time, and we are going to try again later. 1 year later, true to his word, ISRO launched a satellite into space. This time it was a success, a dream come true for India. And this time, he called Dr. Kalam and said, this is the man behind the mission. Give him the congratulations. So when you have a good team, when you have a boss that recognizes you, appreciates you, awards you, you are going to do anything and everything for that team and for that leader. So you have to remember being connected to your people, understanding them, the empathy, the sympathy, understanding their problems. In Toastmasters, we had a similar situation when we had the pandemic, we had a rise in subscriptions, and people were leaving Toastmasters in droves. But we had to understand that not everyone has the financial viability to stay in Toastmasters, because not everyone, sometimes people don't even have a job. Toastmasters becomes a luxury, or they've been working so hard that they don't have the time and the bandwidth to devote to Toastmasters. So understand the reality. Let people work at their own pace. Maybe even, especially I find this for area directors. 1 year they join, they're very gung-ho and enthusiastic about doing this. TCP for all my clubs, area contest, this contest, that contest. At the end of the year, they're burnt out. So I say, relax, take it easy. It's only Toastmasters. Take a break for a year, come back, refreshed, later. Then you will be able to contribute and get more from Toastmasters. So understand the reality, the grassroots experiences that people have. Again, when we're talking about empathy and sympathy, it's always so much about my people, my thing, and all that I can do. But have you thought about the consequences of our actions beyond our immediate organization? We have another example in India of the bombing of the Taj Mahal. It was an event that devastated the country, our iconic hills, and to have it burnt to the ground was, mind-shattering. But when it came to the Ratan Tata, that is the global icon, the legendary leader of the Tatas currently going, he ensured that not only were those members of the Taj group who did heroic deeds throughout the bombing, not only were they and their families compensated, he also insisted that the vendors, the taxi drivers, the poorer lot outside of the Taj, who made their living by selling trinkets to tourists, taking them on rides, doing all of those things, that they were also included in that list. So you can find leaders with a propensity for magnanimity, for taking things beyond their own selves, beyond their own organizations, having a macro view of the world and going much, much further than that. So that's what we're talking about. How do we do this? And we have to remember, above and everything else, Mark Zuckerberg started by saying, I want to take accountability for my actions. But he also said, this is a tough decision, but it is unavoidable. Leaders must learn to take tough decisions. It's very nice to be nice, but that's not enough for a leader. You have to be tough sometimes. A Toastmaster doesn't turn up for meetings, doesn't do their prats, does any of those things. That is just a personal thing. But if you have an executive committee member that doesn't do their job, then as a president, you have to be tough. You have to say, I'm sorry, you have to deliver, otherwise I have to get somebody else to do it. And that is the toughest lesson we learn as presidents, which is probably the first leadership position people take up in Toastmasters. It's the hardest to learn, but it's the most necessary lesson. So that's what I'm saying. We need to think in terms of leadership in all these very different ways. One, authority. You are the final authority. What are you going to do about it? Are your communications clear, comprehensive, and do they reach every member of your team? Do you know the members of your team? Are you helping them grow? Are you empowering them through all your actions and all your work, not just your words? What are you doing to help people grow? That is part of being a leader. Show empathy, show respect, reward, award, recognize. All part of being a leader. And that's why I say, when you have Toastmasters, this is where leaders are made. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster, for questions and answers.